Welcome back to ta-da, 3D printing.
Okay, we are on to 10B, the MK3S Plus setup and calibration for the MMU3. This is difficulty very difficult and 30 steps. Looks like we need some tools, just the standard ones for this chapter. Step 2 is attaching the MMU unit. Okay, we'll remove this filament holder. Step 2, attaching the MMU unit. The MMU3 unit should be placed in the middle of the top part of the printer's aluminum frame. We'll place it onto the frame, attach it just by the hooks. Look from behind. There are clamps which will be used to lock the unit to the frame in the next step. So we're going to try to center this as best as possible. How's that look? Maybe a little more to the right. That looks pretty good. Step 3, attaching the MMU unit part 2. Make sure the unit is in the middle of the frame. Once we engage the clamps, it won't move left and right as easily. Press the back part of the MMU3 unit downwards slightly until the clamps lock onto the frame. Okay, you can see this hook. That needs to clamp around, but we need to make sure everything looks super centered first. I don't think it's going to get any better than it is. So we're just going to push it down, and it's supposed to lock on both sides. Okay, it does seem good from both sides. When I turn this around, you'll see that each of the hooks have kind of clamped around the frames that you can see from the front. So both sides are good. Step 4, guiding the MMU cable. Now we will guide the cable from the MMU unit into the printer. We're looking at this guy. Make sure the printer is turned off and unplugged from the wall outlet. Do not ever connect or disconnect the MMU unit when the printer is on. So yeah, we're definitely turned off. Okay, so this cable bundle we can zip tie, it says, to the side of the frame, and it shows it kind of like along here of the MMU3 frame. So let's do that. It does say make sure that it's going to the side rather than down. I don't know if I need to attach anything more here or if that's enough. I didn't make it super tight. Let me make it tight, just a little bit tighter. Okay. And then we're going to guide the cable into the open part of the electronics box. So we left this open, and it looks like, sorry for all the dog toenails in the background. It's kind of never ending. Okay, so it looks like this needs to go in approximately there, because of course if I close this, it's going to squash that cable. So we're going to need to trim this box, the door to the box. So step 5, we need to cut part of the plastic on the electronics box door to make room for the MMU3 cable. Make sure you wear protective eyewear. If you're upgrading and you've already trimmed this, you don't need to worry about it, but that's not me. I'm going to need to trim it. It says first to take this off, and it goes through the steps to take it off, but I don't want to take it off. I kind of just want to trim it in place. And this may be a terrible idea, but I think I'm going to try it. We've had a lot of rain in the last 24 hours, and before that we haven't had much rain at all for all summer. So it is very buggy. I feel like a ton of bugs have decided to come in this space. I have bright lights on for the printer, and so I apologize if there's a ton of lights flying in front of my camera. So it says that we need to use these pliers, or it shows them using these pliers. And on this side there is kind of like a little cutting edge. But I really don't want to take the door off. And I feel like if I cut with these, I'll be able to get to it quicker. So basically what we're trying to do is this section here is fine if you don't have extra cables that need to go in. But now we want to kind of trim this back so that when this door closes, it's not gonna destroy the cables. So let's see if I can do it without destroying the door. Okay, so I'm gonna move this cable out of the way because I do not want to mess that up. Seems like it gets trimmed back quite a bit. I want to say that's plenty. Let's see what happens. Okay, that looks like it went okay. I don't know if it's enough. I guess let me set this in there. And even if I go like this, of course I got other cables in the way. I still feel like it could, what's it matter? Let's trim it a little bit more. Great. Let's give it plenty of space. There is a little bit of a wall here. So when you see that, it's like a little, half sphere, and then it comes back. I can't get too far back there because there's already a wall, but let's trim a little more. That looks like a decent amount. That seems like plenty. There's still just a little bit of room there, so I think we're good on that. It's not closing completely because I have a mess still, but I think the door is good, and I'm fine with not taking it completely off the hinges because that's step 5, removing it. Step 6, reattaching it. Okay, step 7, we can move on. Electronics wiring diagram. We need to make sure everything is reconnected. I know that the filament sensor is one that I have not reconnected since we unplugged it, which is kind of a joke because of the whole mess I went through on the upgrade. But anyways, I'll get that plugged in correctly. I don't think I unplugged anything else, but we will have to do a couple more things after this. So let me get the filament sensor plugged in. It needs to be on the bottom pins. The cable's kind of hanging out down here. We're plugged in, and you can see that there are some pins above it. So it is on the bottom round of pins. Nothing else was unplugged, so I think we should be good. Of course, we're going to have a few more things that we'll need to connect in the next steps for the MMU3. It goes into detail about how to correctly plug in the filament sensor cable. You need to make sure that it's in the bottom section of the pins, and that the white cable is facing towards the left. There's a million different ways you can put it in incorrectly, including the way that I had mine plugged in for multiple years, but it's not going to work unless you plug it in correctly. Couple different steps that say make sure you plug this in correctly because it's a big deal. Step 8, connecting the data and FS cables. Okay, so the last one was just showing us an overview. This one, we're actually plugging in the IR filament sensor, which I already did. But what's interesting is it shows first the MMU signal cable, and that's going on the top rows of pins, and then the filament sensor goes on the bottom. So I already plugged the filament sensor in on the bottom row with those pins. The upper row of the same little section, we're going to put this MMU signal cable. The brown wire has to be facing left. So you can just barely see those pins along the top. And I am going with brown cable to the left. I'm going to wiggle my way in there. I don't know how I'm supposed to do this. I almost wonder if I'm supposed to go backwards. Yeah, it looks like I need to do the opposite. So I'm going to unplug the filament sensor and then put in this cable along the top. If I can wiggle the filament sensor right below it, it does seem like the plastic around this plug is a little bit smaller than the other one, but I tried this for a little while, but I can't get them to plug in. So I unplug and then try to plug them in at the same time, and that also does not work. Okay, so in the comments, 3 different people said they also had issues. One was just 2 hours ago. And they said that what they did is they removed this little orange surround. Somebody said they removed it with a flat screwdriver. Let me see what I can do. I do have my pliers right here. So let's see if I can just wiggle. No, I am really gonna mess up a pin real quick. Okay, let me find a flat screwdriver. Okay, so I am back and I just feel like the screwdriver, I am gonna end up breaking something. Ugh. Yeah, I feel like I'm gonna break the pins. I have some more needle nosy looking pliers. Maybe those would be better. They also commented that they used a file. They removed it, used a file to kind of clean it up. I don't really see any reason to put it back in if I don't need to. Okay, my jewelry pliers, I was able to catch the top edge and just pull it out. I don't think that I damaged any of the pins. According to the comments, I should be able to plug these in. Okay, it looks like they both slipped in. Trying to make sure that they're all the way in, both of them. Yeah. And I know we'll know pretty quickly if they're not, so let's move on. Step 9, connecting the power cables. Connect the power cable fork connectors. First, loosen the screws on the terminals so that there is enough space. And it looks like there should be 2 spots all the way to the left. Oh, we're stacking. Okay. We are going to be putting these 2 guys all the way on the left above. Can you see those? Yeah, those 2 right there. So first we need to loosen those. I feel like this might be the first time I'm using this Phillips screwdriver on this upgrade. So I need to loosen those. Okay. Stack the MMU power connectors on top of the PSU cable connections in the first 2 clamps on the left side of the ENC board. The power cable connector fork has bent ends. Make sure they point up Red wire goes into the first slot, black into the second slot. All right, let's see if we can even see what's happening here, because I have a lot of mess going on. All right, so we want the red one in the left. Okay, if I scoot the bed forward, that does help. Red on the left. Okay, feel like I got it. It does look like it's underneath the washer, and I'm going to tighten it before I let go. And it does look like I stacked both of them. I didn't lose one. Don't really love how much that one's popped up, but let's just see what we get. And now we can do the black one to the right, just the next one. Make sure the forks are pointing up, so not loose enough. Okay, it does look like that one also is underneath the washer. And they're both double stacked. They're both kind of popping up the same amount, so we'll see. 10, closing the electronics box. This will be fun. Close the door, make sure no wire is being pinched while you close it. Tighten the M3x40 screw. Okay, that looks pretty good. Still, you know, cords hanging out the bottom, but I think we're as closed as we're gonna be. Okay, step 11 is software download. We need to open this in a new tab and install the package on the printer for the drivers for the MMU. MMU, we need the drivers. Mine is a Windows, so it's downloading up there. Then I need to install the package. Once it's complete, .6.1. I wanted to see if there's any, yeah, I would love to have some sample objects. Of course, I have old stuff on here that needs to be uninstalled first. Hopefully that's pretty simple. Okay, it's finished. Now, when I jump into Prusa Slicer, it should let me add the MMU3. Okay, so I'm in 2.6.1, and I want to, I might already have it just because I upgraded not that long ago, but let's just make sure. Add or remove presets is what I want to do. Okay, add or remove presets. Yes, let's install anything new. Okay, so I have MK4s, yes. Minis, yes. MK3, yes. It was when I upgraded to the Plus and did the firmware. I probably clicked this one as well, the MMU3. I think that's the only one that I need, so it looks like I should have it. I just want to make completely sure. I don't have any 2s or 2.5s. I do have the XL, just the single tool head. So I can do finish. Okay. So I need to get ready to flash. So configuration. I wonder if I need to put this small. Okay. Make this. I need to flash firmware. We'll start with MMU3. So I need to download that. Of course, we start with MK4 because that's the most popular. Download this firmware. Let that go through, and then okay, so we're going to need to connect to the printer. No. Plug everything back in, turn it on, but we're going to flash the MMU3 firmware first. Okay, so everything's turned on. Now I have this cable that I need to connect on this side and then connect it to my computer. All right, let's see if I can get this the right direction. All right, that's in on the MMU. That's in on the MMU3. Other side needs to go into the computer. All right. Then open Prusa Slicer, select configuration, flash, printer, firmware. Okay, so right here at the bottom, flash, printer, firmware. Hit browse. So then I need to find the downloaded firmware. That's good. Serial port should be auto detected. Hope that's good. Hit flash. And when it was failing last time, it was because I was in the wrong port. I have 2 ports, so. Or maybe I need to change. No, it thinks it knows. Okay, so now it's going. Oh, that's fun. Failed again. So I need to unzip this, extract all first, and that's the problem. It keeps trying to pull back to previous things. Okay. So now, when I'm in this, I need to have the thing from today, of course. Oh, come on. The MMU3. That's what I'm flashing. Still failed. I don't think. Okay. So I've got the correct thing. No, doesn't like it. Oh, okay, that was finally it. Finally had the right port and everything worked. Hooray. So, MMU has been flashed. Next step is that my printer is up to date. I think it already is, but we'll make sure it's v3.13 or newer. I don't think I've done something too crazy. So now I need to plug in to this ridiculously old port. Okay, I'm going to unplug the MMU. I'm going to plug in, oh, you can't quite see it, to the actual printer. Now I need to switch to this one, the MK3. I don't know how well you can see any of that, but so I was at the MMU3 when I did that, and then of course now I need to be on the MK3S. Make sure I'm on the right port. Flash. Okay, flashing succeeded for the MK3S plus printer. Step 19, turning the MMU on and reset. After finishing the firmware update, make sure there are no filaments loaded. No, I'm not loaded. Navigate to the LCD settings. And there should be one for MMU. Yes. Make sure it's on. And then hit the reset button on the LCD box. I assume that means this, not that. I don't know, that seems weird. Okay, the next thing says that there's going to be the MMU unit will go through the self-test routine. Unload manually, I guess. Unload manually. So it thinks that I have filament in. I don't have any filament in. This is a great start. So I'm looking at comments, and somebody said that they saw the filament detection unexpectedly error because the super fenda is firing. Super fenda is firing. Thanks to step 23, I could see the light above the fenda was off and was able to adjust the fenda upwards until the light was on. If for some reason your printer errors out here, it may be easier to check the positioning of the fenda and the IR sensor quickly before opening the electronics box and checking the wire. Note step 25 and 26. Somebody else said if they were stuck on this error page, they loosened the fenda sensor bolt up top on the MMU3 and wiggled it up and down slowly and saw the F1 value change from 1 to 0. Looks like the nut is on this side. Okay, it goes from 0 to 1. And the problem is that when it's at 1, it thinks that there's filament loaded. So I'm messing with it up top. You see that it's changing. What I'm doing up here that makes it change is just moving where this is positioned. Of course, if I'm all the way out, I'm at 0. If I'm all the way in, I'm at 1. So I need to find a little bit of a balance here, I think. So it's right there. Oh man, it is so right on the edge. Okay. I'm 0, 0. So if I say retry, it did try to go through something up here, but it looks like it's letting me get on to the next screen. Now that happened, I'm going to reset this and see if it seems like it's going to work. So I'm not getting an error, and the MMU's on. I'm going to reset that because I feel like okay, That's all it says so far. Step 20, IR filament sensor calibration. We will calibrate the IR filament sensor inside the chimney on the extruder. Follow the instructions carefully. This part is very important. So we're going to use the 2.5 Allen key and make sure the lock screw for the chimney is not tightened up. Don't remove it entirely. Carefully tighten the calibration screw on the side so that the chimney moves all the way to the left, which I feel like we did already. Okay, so we're looking at this, and I need to make sure that this is not tightened all the way, which it's not, but that this is, yeah, that's as good as it's gonna go. Moving it over makes it less sensitive to triggering. Now we need to insert the 1.5 Allen key into the extruder. Make sure it's the thinnest of the bundled Allen key. Do not use the 2mm one. All right, I'm gonna have to go back up and look at my tools because I don't know which one's which. Okay, so I believe that I have the correct one, that it's this one. Insert the Allen key. Insert the Allen key into the extruder. Don't push it all the way in. Make sure you're using the thinnest. I hope so. Okay, sensor info. Filament sensor right now is at 0. Now when I push the key in until it reaches between the Bowden gears, so it should be showing a 1, and I don't see a 1. So I think I need to tighten this up on the top a little more. So it's saying that it will be easier to trigger if it's loosened, which means that I need to go the other way. Ooh, I feel like I saw it go. Did it flash on me? Yeah. Okay. Where I'm at right this second, it shows just like there, but it's not complete. So I think it needs to be a little more reliable. It needs to be a little looser. Okay, so where I'm at now, this is relatively loose. And when I put this in, it stays. Well, shoot, not quite. It's like as I'm pushing it, it stays, but it doesn't want to stay. So I need to loosen it a little more. Okay, now it's staying without me touching it. So when this screw on the side is looser, it's more likely that you're going to get the number. So as I push this in, we're at 1. If I take it out or start messing with it, it goes to 0. So that's where it needs to be, if I'm understanding correctly. And then I need to just go ahead and tighten this. That will keep the whole chimney in place, and it won't shift anymore. I'm going to make sure now that I've tightened it. Yes. Looks like it's still triggering. Okay, I think that's right. Step 23. Good, you've calibrated your IR filament sensor. I just realized they have not told us one time to eat gummy bears, and I definitely feel like that is a call for gummy bears to get that to work. Not even told us to open the gummy bears. So yes, gummy bears. In the next step, we will adjust the sensor's position and check if it detects the filament correctly. This is in bold and red. It is extremely important that both the IR filament sensor and the Super Finda sensor work reliably and provide accurate readings. Otherwise, you will have trouble with the device. Makes perfect sense. There's an inspection window on the side of your selector where you can observe the Super Finda position. It's a good starting point to line up the bottom of the Super Finda probe with the top of the inspection window when looking from the selector motor side. And in this little window right here, you should be able to see the Pinda. If there's filament in the selector, the steel ball is risen and should be detected by the super fenda sensor. The distance between the ball and the sensor is what must be calibrated. So we're going to take a piece of filament with a sharp tip and insert it in the selector through the brass threaded opening in the front, which is over here. You can't quite see it. Take a look at super fenda from above and watch for the little red light inside the sensor to turn off when the filament raises the steel ball inside. So when the red light's on, there should be no filament right now. When there's no light, there should be filament. So let's see if it changes. I mean, like immediately, I feel like it changes, right? Even when I'm not all the way, yeah. I mean, I think that is well calibrated. If the light is still on, I need to make adjustments. Okay, then I need to also be looking at the sensor reading on the LCD screen, which is fun since I just flipped the printer around. Support, sensor info, they're both at 0. Ooh, my filament sensor says it's still at 0. I don't think that's right. So I need to still make some adjustments. Even though the light is working, I'm not getting anything on the filament sensor. The fenda needs to be this one that needs to change. So there's a screw on this side, and I can scoot that little guy down a little bit. It already moved down for me. Nope. Okay, I am messing with this and I don't feel like I'm getting anywhere. I have this screw completely loose. This went from where it was triggering fine at the top, but I'm still getting a 0 down on the screen. That now, even when I push it as far down as I possibly can, I mean, I'm to the point that I can barely even get filament in, and I'm still not triggering. Next step says that later on an MMU error screen will show if something goes wrong during the operation. See the example image. The first line briefly describes briefly what the error is about. So it makes me feel like, even though I'm not getting the correct number, I kind of want to move on because the light is working. I think I'm just going to make it as squished down on filament loaded so that I can still get filament in there and see if it continues erroring afterwards. We'll see if that's enough or if I need to adjust something else. I reset the printer and now my fenda sensor doesn't want to shut off, which is better than it was because now I have something at least to calibrate it with. It did also reset and move all the way to the right, which I wouldn't think would really matter. No, I wouldn't think it would really matter. Okay, so now I'm gonna make it a little snugger and see, or a little looser, I guess. Okay, so I've got filament in and my fenda's good. Now when I take the filament out, we're at 0. So I think we're good. I don't know why I had to reset it. That's the only thing I did. But it looks like it's working. Hooray. Okay, step 27, MMU2 extruder PTFE tube parts preparation, just one. We need the 360 by 2.5 PTFE tube, which is found in here. Looks like this one is the only tube left, quite a bit shorter. And we need 2 Festu fittings. The Festu fittings are in this bag and they look like these. It says the new PTFE tube has an internal diameter of 2.5 millimeter. In case you're upgrading, blah, 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 I'm not upgrading. Step 28, attach the Festu fittings in both sides of the new tube. So we got the both sides. Come on, yeah. While the collet is pressed, push in. Ooh, okay. So while the collet is pressed, push in, and then you want to pull the collet out so that it's not going to slip back out again. And we do that on both sides. And I have both sides done. Attach the PTFE tube onto the printer. One end goes on the selector, the other goes on the extruder. Tighten the fittings up using the Unikey. Okay, so it doesn't really matter which one goes where. Looks like we have one that goes right here. So I can kind of hand tighten both of those. At least to get them to stay. Yeah. And then we need to use the key to make sure they're tight. I don't feel like that's the right thing. Man, it just doesn't seem like it wants to catch in the right spot. There we go. Okay. That one's good. This one's going to be fun because of the chimney. Get it as tight as I can get it first. Okay, that's good. Step 29, spool holder setup. Congratulations, the hardest part is over. You've successfully calibrated the sensors. Now we move on to the spools and buffer setup. The setup in the picture is the one we will be trying to achieve. Arrange the spool holders behind the printer as seen in the picture. Note, this is in red, note the spool holder positioning. It is important that filament has as straight a path as possible and that nothing interferes. PTFE tubes should not be bent too much, otherwise the filaments will jam. Note that due to the decreased filament friction in the MMU3 compared to the MMU2S, some of the third-party rewinding spool holders may no longer work with the MMU3. As I'm looking at this picture, I have no idea how I'm going to set up this humongous of a footprint. I'm kind of shocked at it, actually. I feel like all of the pictures on the website just show the MMU3 unit on the printer. They don't even show, maybe they show the cassette, but they do not show spool holders. I really thought that it was going to end up being above the printer. I wish I had known before I got to this step, but here we are. I have no idea how I'm going to find space for this. This thing is gigantic. Okay. I have a workbench ready that I'm working on. I don't want to use the whole thing for this printer, but we'll just finish this up and figure it out later. Step 30, connecting buffer PTFE tubes. Connect the PTFE tubes from the MMU unit to the bottom row of colettes on the buffer, ensuring you match the number on both the buffer and the MMU unit. Okay, so I've got this guy, and I do not understand what I'm doing. Let's see. So on the back, we ran the tubes through the top. Now we're wanting to attach them to the bottom. There should be numbers on the back. Okay, so there's numbers on the back. From the left, it goes 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So we're wanting to attach in order the cable, or not the cables, the tubes, we want to attach in order the tubes from the top of the MMU to this, we're calling it the buffer. I thought it was cassettes, but the buffer unit. Okay, so starting from all the way on the left, that one is 1. So it looks like we will end up having it set up on this side, but does it? I have it flipped. So we're gonna want it to go this direction, which makes it even more fun to try to video this. Okay. Okay, so starting from the right, we're starting at 1, and then the right on here is 1. So I'm gonna put this here in the bottom, and then just continue on. It seems like they overlap. Okay, so I'm gonna take this one out, because it looks in the picture like they kind of just go around each other. So I've got 1 here, and then I'll get 1 here, and then continue on that way. So I've got this one, and then I can push this one in. Okay, this one too. 3, 4, 5. Okay. So you can see that they're just overlapped. After that's done, we'll attach each end of the PTFE tube coming from the buffer to the spool holder. Make sure each spool holder is hooked up in the corresponding filament position marked 1 through 5. I don't see any markings on the filament, on the spool holders, but let me make sure I'm not missing something. I don't see anything that has a number on here. So maybe they're just saying put them in order and make sure you're keeping them in order. I mean, I'll just put them in and then we can deal with it later. So I need the spool holder, or I need the PTFE tube to go in here. Does it say how far? It just looks like it needs to go in enough that you can easily thread in. So that looks fine to me. And I guess I'll just kind of try to keep them straight. Can't even get everything in one shot. So that's the end of the chapter. What a great place to stop. I can see if I can get a little bit better layout on this. I'm falling off the edge of my table. This is not a table that I use for printing. This is actually my shipping area that I like to keep completely clean so that we have plenty of room to ship. It's clean other than the bugs that are jumping around because it's bright white in here. Yeah, you can see that my tubes are straight here. And I guess it's time to move on to the next step. It looks like there's just one more step. Let's see if this thing fires up correctly and if I have any other errors. Let me know your thoughts if you think I missed anything. Thanks for watching.